For the first time in thousands of years, Israel has held a red heifer ritual rehearsal, bringing an ancient prophecy one step closer to reality. Many believe the red heifer is the final piece needed for building the third temple, a key event tied to the return of Jesus Christ. So today, we'll break down what just happened, why it matters, and how it connects to Bible prophecy, the Temple Mount, and the days we're living in. Are you ready for what comes next? Welcome to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We're so happy you've joined us today. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to start with the red heifer story. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that code June is still active for OnlySource. You can use code June at watch.osn.tv. Get your first month free of OnlySource. When you use code June. There's a lot of content on there about the red heifer, about the Temple Mount, the final 7 years. We'll be talking about a lot about that today. And if you want an in-depth study on any of these topics, go to watch.osn.tv, use the search function to find it, and of course use code June to get your first month free of OnlySource. And of course you'll have access to everything there, the little things, Revelation, the 21-episode series on the book of Revelation, Understand the End Time, and so much more. So go to watch.osn.tv right now, use code June, get your first month free. Doug, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
I am so happy that you're back.
It's almost been 2 weeks.
I know. It feels like it, too, by the way.
I was only going one, but it's been a long time since I sat here. So,
yeah, well, we missed you tremendously. Put Doug Norvell in the comments. Let him know he was missed. You celebrated your what anniversary?
39th anniversary.
39th.
Yeah, on the 3rd of July.
Doug,
yeah.
Endtime is 39 this year.
Wow. How about that?
So you've been married as long as Endtime existed.
And longer than you've been alive.
Yes, I've only been alive for 37 and a half years or so.
Well,
so yes,
it is a milestone.
We I don't know how much, if at all, you tuned in, but we had a good time while you were gone.
I did tune in.
Lana Lyman, you know her?
I do. tread softly here, carefully, Vince.
She's sitting right over there, and she's making me want to say some things on the air, but I'll refuse for now. She's smiling though, so put Lana in the. If you enjoyed having Lana and my wife on the show, my wife's not in studio right now, but Lana is. If you enjoyed having Lana on the show, put Lana in the comments, and I think she's probably in the chat right now on Facebook specifically. So put Lana. She loves talking about the red heifers. So, we better get into it, Doug.
Yeah.
Before I get in trouble.
Yeah, let's do that before you end up in the doghouse.
More trouble, I should say.
In a bigger doghouse, or maybe a smaller doghouse. I don't know.
Never know.
Put you in a small one. So there's a lot going on right now. I mean, the red heifer story that came out, and really it's not a story, it's a video that's come out, but there's been a lot of stuff said about it. So, I mean, do you want to show the video while we're talking? It's only a quick, like 5-second video, but this is it.
Well, before we do, Doug, I got to say real quick, I sent you this tweet. Of course, you'd already seen it, but I sent this to you, and I'm going, is this not the biggest event maybe of our lifetime? I mean, I know we've said that a few times.
Yeah.
But this one specifically, when you see a video of a red heifer, they slaughtered it first of all.
Right.
They killed it, and then they burn it in this ritual.
Yeah.
And I'm going, we've been talking about the red heifer ceremony that's coming for so long.
Yep.
Now we need to clearly say up front, they say this one was not qualified because it had. Well, it's like, why not call it a rehearsal?
Yeah.
And just pretend like the heifer isn't valid.
Right.
And there's no issues. They did it. The world didn't end.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, so they say that this red heifer did not qualify for that purification ceremony.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you're watching a video here of a red heifer burning, and they're probably going to collect the ashes and do the whole ritual. So I'm looking at this post on X, and I'm going, this is what we've been talking about for a really long time. I remember my grandfather writing articles about it, doing shows on politics and religion, saying a red heifer is going to come eventually. Right. We've done shows many times over the last several years, especially as these red heifers came from right here up the road from us.
Right.
And now we're watching a video of them actually do a ceremony that's a rehearsal, supposedly.
So they say.
It's unbelievable. So
yeah.
Share this video. Share this video. This is your sign. If you haven't already, share this video right now, because this is absolutely unbelievable what you're about to see. I wanted to get that out because I'm fired up about it, and I hope everyone else is too, because it's unbelievable.
You are fired up about it.
Yeah. Well.
And we are not saying this is the actual red heifer. We're saying you could do that if you wanted to, fly it under the radar and say this was a rehearsal. This one that they did over the weekend, it had supposedly some black hairs that were real close together, touching. So I've heard two different camps from this. I've heard that there is a particular set of rabbis that are very particular about this, and they are going to be sticklers on the details, and then that is what will make some of these red heifers not kosher, and that's why some people are reporting something. We're going to share what our friend Byron Stinson shared with me today, a little bit of it. He should run for political office from the answer he gave me, but I understand and I respect where he's coming from. But so this is supposedly a red heifer, and why that's a big deal is this has been done before as far as testing it to see how many ashes they would get, but not with a red heifer. This is the first time in at least 2,000 years that we know of, thousands of years, like Vince said at the beginning of the program, that they've done a red heifer ceremony. And we'll go ahead. We'll show you the video now. Hopefully, you've shared this with everybody so people will see it. But it also, remember, they already own the acre lot that they need on the Mount of Olives across from the Temple Mount, which is, I don't know if that's where this took place, because like I said, they didn't give you a lot of information. They only put the video with a short paragraph about the situation. So let's go ahead and look at that video real quick. Sam, throw that in there for us. So there it is. And, I mean, in Texas, we call that a barbecue, but that fire is kind of out of control there. But there we go. There's this red heifer, and they're saying it wasn't kosher, so they did this trial run. Well, with that, like you said, Vince, they'll be able to practice other things. So they already have a priest that is selected that has never come in contact with a dead body or anything that would disqualify him as a priest. And now they have red heifer ashes that they can go through ceremonial practices to see how this is all going to work out. So there's a lot of information that goes along with this that they didn't give us, and I'm sure that people are wanting to know. But so we have pretty much told everybody about the red heifer and where it comes from Numbers 19 and the ceremony and what it's about. It's about purification for people to go up on the Temple Mount, for people that would even start building a temple to go up on the Temple Mount. They would have to be purified, these rabbis believe. And it would also be for anyone that was going up to worship in that temple. They would have to be purified with these ashes of this red heifer. Not this particular red heifer, but the red heifer.
I've got a quick question for the end timers today.
Yeah.
As I watch that video, I am curious to know what their thoughts are.
Yes.
Is this the real thing, or is it actually...
Man, you were going to start something.
Well, I'm like, is it like I said, when I saw it, I'm going, that would be the perfect fakie.
Yeah.
I'll just throw, I'm going to go even further out on the limb here, Doug. We've got people who say, everyone saw Trump's response about Epstein, the Epstein list, and
man, you're really opening up the can.
Well, people, these people that are really pro-Trump,
yeah,
they're going, oh, get the popcorn, enjoy the show. He's up to something you can't see.
Yeah,
all that type of stuff. Of course, you and I, we didn't like that response. There's a lot we can say about it. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, as far as red heifers go, I'm sitting there thinking the same thing that they're thinking about Trump. I'm going, why not just call it a disqualified red heifer?
Yeah.
And let's just go ahead and do it and get things ready. And so I'm just curious what the end timers out there are thinking. So if you think this is the real thing, I want you to put that in the comments. This is the real thing. Just say that. If you think that it really wasn't qualified, say this was not the real thing. It's that simple. That line, when you comment longer things, it helps us out a lot. So say this is the real thing or this is not the real thing. I'd like to know what everybody thinks about that in the chat.
All right.
Because I know what I think.
Okay.
I'm not ready to prophesy.
No.
Not ready to give any dates.
Yeah.
But I know what I think, and I'd love to know what everyone else thinks.
Well, very good. All right. Well, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, do that for us. Put that in there, and then we'll find out very soon. So back to what we were talking about, because all this is going to kind of tie into the entire program today. This was the lead thing that we wanted to talk about because it is out there, and there have only been 9 red heifers up to this point. This is when we get the red heifer. It will be the 10th red heifer, and with that comes the belief that with that 10th red heifer, the Messiah would soon be here. Well, we know that all the things that are happening right now appear to be leading us toward the final 7 years right before Jesus comes back. And so all these things get us very excited. It's a lot of excitement when you see something like that because, like I said before, this practice run gives them so many opportunities to see how the real thing will go when they get ready to do that, to know how many ashes they'll have, how far those ashes go, and what this ceremony will actually look like. So regardless of if it's real or not right now, we've got a trial run in the very least. So with that said, this is moving us toward other things that we've seen. So just to kind of recap on some of the things we've talked about here recently, Vince, we had an article that talked about the possibility of the third temple starting construction by the end of 2025. A very prestigious and well-known religious leader here in the United States that has ties with Israel said in an article, and I believe that it's now, it was in the Western Journal, but now I believe that Charisma Magazine also took it and ran that story as well. And this particular story, this person says that through his contacts with people who are in the Knesset and people who are in the Temple Institute have said that there is a possibility that the third temple could begin construction by the end of 2025. And so we covered that on one of our programs and talked about it. But since then, there's been some other interesting things that we haven't really mentioned. There's been just so much going on with the war and everything else that we failed to mention this. I think we may have posted it on our social media. I know I posted it on my Facebook page, but there was a video from the Temple Institute where you have Jewish men out and they're hanging up a new sign on a road sign next to the highway pointing toward the Temple Mount, and the sign reads the Jewish temple this direction, and it has a picture of the temple. And so it said in anticipation of the third temple. So that's happening right now. Well, the other things that are going on right now is we've got President Trump talking to all these different leaders in the Arab world and bringing them in. And that's some of the things that we're going to expound on a little bit today, because there was a meeting in the White House a couple of days ago, Vince, with Netanyahu and President Trump. And there's not a lot of people even talking about that. So as we progress through this, I don't know what direction you want to go right now, or if you want to throw something in here before we move on to something else. But that is exciting to see that this is happening with all these other pieces of the puzzle beginning to fall into place. It's very interesting to watch what God's doing right now.
Yes, it is. And there is one thing I was thinking that I need to throw in before the halfway mark of this show. I mentioned earlier that Lana's in studio,
yes,
and that's because there's another Endtimer in studio.
Yes.
Susan has joined us all the way from the state of Washington, and so she's sitting right over there as well. So I think she commented in the chat earlier, but give a shout out to Susan, an Endtimer that is here enjoying the show from the studio, hopefully enjoying the show from the studio. So we're glad to have Susan here with us today, all the way from the state of Washington. So show Susan some love. Now, back to this, Doug, because I did ask the question to the Endtimers, but what do you think? Do you have an opinion that you're willing to share on whether or not this was real or actually just a ritual?
Well, let me just tell you, I reached out to Byron Stinson today, okay, our friend that is over Bonnet, Israel, and he is one of the people that is responsible for having the 5 red heifers moved from Rockwall, Texas to Israel, and now he has taken up residence there, and he's living there now, which when that happened, that was something that we asked that question. Very interesting. He said he was going to move to Israel for the next 3 years, right? And we were like, 3 years? That's interesting to just throw that out there. But I sent him a message today. He messaged me back. He said, here's what I can say right now. He said, we are working to produce an educational video that we'll be able to release. And he said, what I can tell you is that the ceremony is still in progress. They're still getting ready to do this ceremony. So he's not saying that the ceremony's done. He's saying this is still a future event that's going to be done. But he said there is so much disinformation out there that they want to do a video that they can just release, and you can go and see it on their websites, and I'm sure he'll put it on Facebook as well. But they're producing that, he said, as we speak today. So they're going to try to debunk some of the things that are going around. But here's something that was interesting, because there's a teaching out there right now, and this is something I asked him specifically. There is a teaching right now saying that this ceremony is complete, and that that ceremony is complete, the practice run, but the original or the real ceremony will take place on Tisha B'Av this year, which is in August. I think it's like August 3rd or August 8th. I can't remember the date right now, but it's in the first week of August. And there are a lot of things that have happened on Tisha B'Av. That's when the first and the second temple was destroyed. And so this person that's teaching this is saying that this ritual, the ceremony, will take place on Tisha B'Av this year. Absolutely. So, okay, so Sam's telling me in my ear it's August 2nd to the 3rd is Tisha B'Av. So this is something to consider. That was not from Byron Stinson. It's from someone else on social media. But all these things are adding up. And it's interesting that they choose that day to do it, to do the ceremony. But it's also interesting because they're saying that moving forward, there could be a temple there, and they've got to have this ritual done by that time. So all this is very interesting. This is what we've been talking about, like you said, for years. Pastor Baxter talked about it, wrote articles about it. We've talked about it many times. And so, in my opinion, you asked me my opinion. So, not to dance around.
So presidential, Doug.
Well, in my opinion, I think this was just what they said it was. I think it was a practice run, but I do believe the real one is coming, and I would not be surprised to have it happen on Tisha B'Av. So none of that would surprise me.
Which is a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, it's not long from now at all. And so looking at that video too, some people pointed out this does not look like the area that the original or the real one would be done in. And they felt like it would be more ceremonial when it happens. Like you would see the priest there and you would see others there. Now, I don't know because I don't know enough about it. I haven't gone and studied enough about it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's exciting to me, and it's one of those things that I'm like, this is really cool because it's moving us one step closer. But until we got those 5 red heifers, I felt like they would build a temple with or without a red heifer. I really did. I thought if Israel gets an opportunity to build a temple, they'll do it before that. But I do want to say this real quick. If you've signed up for the tour with Endtime this year, think about how phenomenal this tour could actually be. This ceremony could happen in August. They go in October. We could be talking about the peace accords happening or the peace agreement happening sometime around the time that our tour group is over there. Could you imagine?
Our tour group may not be able to go on the Temple Mount because it's a construction zone.
You never know. That would be incredible. I mean, there are a lot of things happening. I'm very excited about where this is all going.
I have more questions about the red heifer, if I may, Doug.
Okay, sure. I may not be able to answer them, Vince.
Well, it's going to be a lot of hypotheticals. So
okay,
we can
then
have
I know I won't.
You can say as much as you want. We don't know the number of potential red heifers. I remember some time ago a red heifer appearing on the front of Endtime magazine and it being the buzz that it looks like they have the red heifer to purify the temple, and this was maybe 2003 or so, something like that, maybe a little after that. But over the years, there have been red heifers, and then they become disqualified.
Right.
I don't think we've ever had 5 qualified red heifers at one time in Israel until recently.
Right.
And when all those red heifers in the past became disqualified, we don't even know what happened to them.
Right.
They just disappeared or whatever. Like they're not in the news.
Yeah.
They're disqualified. And
they may be in a
that's
pasture
it.
somewhere eating grass for all I know. I don't know.
They very well could be. They didn't do a mock ceremony with those. So if this isn't the real thing, why do a mock ceremony and record it and upload it to the internet and get everyone all worked up about it?
Right. I cannot answer that hypothetical question because I don't know, Vince. You know, I mean, the thing is if this was some undercover, it would be a great plan. I mean, I agree with you. That would be amazing to be able to go ahead and do it and just say, well, we said that was a mock trial, but it's really not. That was the real thing, and now it's done, and, you know, what are you going to do about it, basically? But, I mean, I can't answer that. I don't know. It's a great question. It's a great thing to throw out there. It is very buzzworthy, for sure. And it is something that should get a lot of Christians talking because a lot of Christians don't believe we'll even be here when a temple is constructed. And yet we could be moving toward that. So a lot of our listeners right now, they're looking up thinking Jesus come back in any moment because they're talking about
maybe before the end of the show.
Yeah, because they've had this ceremony and they're talking about building the temple and we're going to be out of here before that. Now, that's what I'm saying people are saying. That's not what I'm saying we're saying. But I'm just saying, you know, there are a lot of people that believe that way. I mean, I know a very prominent, I don't know him personally, but I follow him, a very prominent teacher who has said there will be no red heifer ceremony. There will be no temple, not for Christians, because we'll be out of here by then. And there's a lot of people that follow him and believe what he teaches. Well, we're watching these things begin to happen. So at some point, people are going to have to question what they've learned from, you know, other people and just, decide what they believe. Because I know there's a lot of voices out there, and we really got to be careful who we listen to, especially from, people who are not even believers that are saying things. And so, anyway, just be careful who you listen to. Pay attention to what Scripture says, and let's go back to the Scriptures on this kind of thing so that we can see where we are prophetically. And I think that we are in a very good place prophetically right now.
So another question. Since they haven't done it in thousands of years, they don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they've got the instruction manual, of course, but it's like, if it's been a while since you put together a bunk bed and you get the materials and you have to do it, you're going to mess up a little bit.
Have you done this? Is this experience speaking?
Too many times. I go home and now I've got something to put together.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that doesn't happen today. And that may be the key to get out of the doghouse, Doug. I don't know. I got to put something else together. But it's like, if you haven't done it in a while, and of course these guys have never done it in their life.
Right.
So then I'm going, well, that kind of makes sense that they would do a practice ceremony. There were 5. The last I heard, I believe there were 2 left that were qualified.
Yes.
So does that mean these are one of the 2, or we don't know?
I would think that these are not one of the 2.
Okay.
I think this I don't even know if it's one of the 5. I would think that it's one of those 5. Now, the last photo we saw from a reliable source was a few months ago, when we had one of our friends that are in Israel go to Shiloh and take pictures, and all 5 red heifers were still there. And they were all together in the stall. They had really nice fans blowing on them. I think we even showed some video of that. But there were still 5 cows, even though they weren't kosher. There was only 2 that's kosher. So this could have been one of those 5. And I don't know that for sure, because like I said, the only thing that you could find on this was that video with a small paragraph saying that they did this practice run. So they're not giving us a lot of information.
Yeah. And I think my last question on it, and by the way, Sam, if we can get that video ready to play again, even though we already played it, I'm going to play it again for the folks that have just now joined us, if we can. Since this ceremony has to be done the exact way, what if they make a little mistake? Does that ruin the whole thing if they trip and break something, or who knows what? Does that ruin the whole ceremony? And maybe that's why.
No idea.
Okay, so they need to do it the right way.
I would think that they're going to be very methodical on the way that they do things, because that's just, the rabbis want to make sure everything's done properly and correct. They're going to have the hyssop, and they're going to have the cedar, and they're going to have the red thread. Oh, they're going to have everything they need to try to make it as authentic as possible, I would believe. And they did that with this practice ceremony. So those elements were all there. So, your argument of could this have been the real thing, it could have been, because the article did say at least that much, that those things were involved.
Well, let's watch that video again.
Okay.
Is it the real thing? Let's check it out one more time and see it.
Now, to me, that looks like that might be Shiloh where they're doing that. That doesn't look like...
Well, scripturally, it doesn't matter where they're at, right? They don't have to be in a certain spot, or do they have to see the Temple Mount?
You have to see the Temple Mount from there, I believe. And that looked
Maybe
like
they
Shiloh.
had a video up of the Temple Mount.
Maybe so.
We
know that they have an acre of land in a place where they shouldn't even have an acre of land. I mean, realistically, an Arab sold that to a Jewish person, and that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so this is God's will, his part of his plan, because he's allowed these things to fall into place. And that spot in the Temple Mount, we don't even know, or not the Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, we don't even know exactly where that spot is. They do, because they own that acre of land. But it's perfect, and it's setting right in the area where they can look over and see the Temple Mount from where they're at. And, of course, when you're standing on the Mount of Olives and you're looking over at the Temple Mount, you're looking at the eastern gate, and you're seeing that whole wall there, and you got the Kidron Valley in between you and all that. That's the view. In my mind, that would be the view. If it was real, if this was the real ceremony, I would think that would be the view. As they had the camera sitting there, you would see the Temple Mount in the background. But that's just me.
John from Tennessee called in, and they've texted me a message from him. He doesn't have social media, so he wanted his voice to be heard.
Yeah.
He said if the priest doing the practice ceremony said it was practice, but then later he changes and says it was the real thing, he would be lying, and that will be against the laws of God. So in his opinion, he doesn't think it was the real ceremony. So you've got John from Tennessee's perspective. You've got all the end-timers' perspective. Now there's a peace agreement to talk about on the other side of the break that a lot of people are looking over these details. We're going to highlight it for you, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.
A reminder of the breaking news this hour. At least 22 people are reported to have died in a strike in Gaza.
The rise of Islam.
We're trying to bring answers for so many families desperately.
Is the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict World War III? So let's talk about the four horsemen. What do these horses symbolize? These are the four spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. In the end time, the true people of God will not be weak, anemic, and defeated. These prophesied events are revealing we are quickly approaching the time of the Great Tribulation right now.
Now streaming on OnlySource and available to order at endtime.com/green. Go to endtime.com/green or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the End Time Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. There was a red heifer ritual rehearsal, or so they say. It was a rehearsal, according to the report. And we're dissecting that and, of course, this peace agreement that's in the works as well. There's a lot coming together here. And so it has those of us that have been watching the times and comparing it with what Scripture says is coming. We are excited about what God is doing in this hour, and we're taking a closer look at that. Of course, we played the clip of the red heifer ritual rehearsal in the beginning of the show, so go back and watch that if you haven't seen it already. It's quite interesting what has happened, and of course, it's great to have Doug Norvell back, but I do want to make mention real quick, Dave is coming to an area near you. He and Janet will be in Katy, Texas, later this month, July 25th, 26th, and 27th. 3-day event in the Houston, Texas area, Katy specifically. We're really excited about this. The events normally aren't 3-day events, so you get an extra day with Dave down in Katy. You can go to endtime.com/events, learn more about the specifics for this particular conference. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, so make plans to join us down in the Houston area. Go to endtime.com/events, or we'll help you out at 800-ENDTIME. Give us a call if we can help you out there. All right, Doug, so before the break, we're talking about the peace agreement, or teasing the peace agreement. There's a detail from that. Of course, there's been so much talk about peace, way more than red heifer talk. What is there even worth highlighting in regards to this situation with the peace deal?
Okay, so this is kind of one of those things that didn't get talked about a lot. And with the situation that just happened at the White House a couple of days ago, when Netanyahu came to the White House, there was a lot of excitement that, he was being invited to come to the White House with President Trump. They met together, and not a lot's been said since then. We know that Netanyahu sent a letter in for referring Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for his part of what he's done with the Abraham Accords and the peace there in Israel. And so that's kind of a big deal. But with that, there hasn't been a lot that's come out of it to let us know what they talked about. This article that we have from LifeSite, it came out last week, and now I wasn't here, so I couldn't be here with y'all and talk about these things. So that's why I want to talk about it now, because I think it ties into what happened at the White House with Trump and Netanyahu, and maybe one of the reasons why we haven't heard much. Okay, so this is, I've kind of broke this article down to help everybody understand what Trump did with the Gaza ceasefire and his U.S. strategy for a new Middle East, okay? Because Trump has been working like a madman over there to get this peace agreement done. So one of the things that happened, and I know that I was here when this happened, Trump got very upset about Netanyahu sending all these planes over to bomb Iran after Iran, during the ceasefire, launched one more missile that didn't hit anything, and it got Trump upset. He said an expletive word, and people, blew up all over social media about it. But one of the reasons why he did that, Trump is very passionate about what he's done with this peace agreement, and he felt like Netanyahu was going to mess it up. Now, remember, early part of this year, we did a program where we showed a video that Trump released about Netanyahu, spoken by the guy, I can't remember his name. Do you remember the guy's name that did that interview and was talking about Netanyahu causing all the wars and getting America to fight their wars? I can't remember the guy's name.
Are you talking about Nick Fuentes?
No, there was a guy. There's another guy. But anyway, we have it on the show. We have the guy's name. I just can't remember right now what his name was. But remember all those things. Trump put this out on his Truth Social and showed this video of this guy that was talking about how Netanyahu has manipulated America basically to fight their wars. It was weird that Trump tweeted that or put that out, and then we covered it and talked about it a little bit. But then this happened with Iran. And so I want to just kind of tell you what this article says, because it's important. If you haven't seen it, this could be why we haven't heard a lot from the White House about that meeting. So President Trump brokered this 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, and he's got big plans for Gaza. We know that he has said in the past he wanted to make it the Riviera of the Middle East, and he wanted to really do a lot of things there. He even talked about maybe America would take it over. But that's not what he's doing. He's trying to get the Arabs behind this situation to get them to do more. So it says that he's positioned this not just as a temporary reprieve, but as a cornerstone for a long-term Middle East peace. This initiative, according to the Israeli media and the U.S. statements, the truce aims to lay groundwork for a broader regional settlement, one that potentially includes permanent resolution to Gaza conflict with wider normalization between Israel and the Arab states. One of the reasons why that's important is because he's talking about bringing some of these Arab states in to control Gaza, to where it's not a Palestinian authority running Gaza anymore, and it's not Israel running Gaza, but it will be this coalition of countries that have made peace with Israel, including Saudi Arabia, who they expect to sign very soon, Syria, and even Pakistan now is talking about this, along with Lebanon. So places that you wouldn't think, these countries that you wouldn't think would agree to this, are now beginning to agree with this. Okay, now here's what I was talking about with the White House. The next part of this says, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing severe domestic challenges, including a corruption trial, accusations of judicial interference, and the collapse of political stability in his ultra-Zionist coalition. Trump's peace push is reportedly conditioned on Netanyahu's departure from power. You hear what I said? Trump wants Netanyahu to back out of the picture. He's wanting him to retire. Reports suggest that Trump is offering Netanyahu a golden retirement, a form of immunity from prosecution. So Trump has already got the trial on hold right now. That's how much power our president's had over this situation. He's got it on hold, and he is telling Netanyahu, for exchange of him stepping aside, and allowing this peace framework to continue, that Trump would like Netanyahu to retire. And this actually says that he would give Netanyahu a hero's retirement. And so there would be no trial. The trial would go away. All this would go away. So he believes that Netanyahu has been sabotaging the efforts toward this peace agreement. That's a huge thing that's in this article. And once again, you can find that on Lifetime, on, what was it? what was the name of it again?
LifeSite.
LifeSite, yes, LifeSite News. So that's where you can find this article for yourself about the peace in the Middle East. Why is that important also? Because with this, we can move forward with the Abraham Accord, and this is what I wanted to show. They've got 5 different things that was in this article, which is interesting, Vince, because we have 5 different things we see in Scripture. Well, these 5 things, these are the 5 things this article mentions. Are you there on that area?
Yeah.
Well, you hit those 5 points of this peace agreement that Trump's working on.
Yeah, so it's the framework of the Abraham Accords, and as it is right now. So number 1, Arab-managed governance in Gaza, excluding Hamas.
Yeah. Hamas being the problem, the terrorist organization that runs the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be Arab-managed. It wouldn't be Israel-ran.
Right.
It wouldn't be Jewish-ran.
Yeah.
Normalization with new states like Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and Syria.
Yes.
Number 3, limited Israeli sovereignty in parts of the West Bank contingent upon Palestinian Authority reforms.
And that's an important one. It's very important.
Yes.
Yeah. So remember
Can we
that.
talk about it?
We can. We can break that down right now if you want to.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the reason why that's important is because we've been saying for a long time, one of the points we see in Scripture is that in those Israeli settlements, those Jews will be able to continue to live in the West Bank area, in Judea, Samaria, under a Palestinian authority or a government set up with Palestinians there. So the sovereignty of those Israelis would now be under a Palestinian authority. We see that in Scripture, and that's one of our 5 points that we pull from Scripture, because Matthew 24 tells us, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, let those who be in Judea flee, for then there shall be great tribulation. So we see this being set up in this peace agreement that Trump's talking about. It's one of his 5 points. Very interesting. Okay.
Number 4, mass immigration options for some Gazans and regional burden sharing. And then number 5, a conditional 2-state vision pending governance reform and stabilization.
So here's another thing, the pending part of that, because what Palestine has wanted for a long time is half of Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. We know that's not going to happen because of Zechariah 14, right? Israel controls all of Jerusalem until the Battle of Armageddon, where the forces that come down against Israel will capture half of the city. Then Jesus comes back and fights for Israel there at the Battle of Armageddon. So we know that that's not going to happen, and it says it's a conditional 2-state vision. So part of this will happen, but the other part is going to be pending on the government reforms. So we can see how halfway into a 7-year period, it would fall apart, and this peace agreement would fall apart when the abomination of desolation takes place, just like Scripture tells us. And this is setting up those pieces of the puzzle for that to happen. It's very incredible.
Okay, and then again, I'll reiterate here, part of what makes it so incredible is there's this mock red heifer ceremony happening basically at the same time.
Yeah. Big deal. Big deal
These
happening
two
right
things
now.
happening hand in hand.
And talk of a third temple by the end of this year.
Yes.
So all these things, when you look at that, that's huge. There's another huge story that we're going to talk about after this next break. That is a big story too, that I don't want to get swept under the rug because of who's involved and what they're saying. So this in and of itself right here, this is something that Trump is pulling together. He's like come in, this is like Abraham Accord on steroids is what this is. This second term of Trump's, he's coming in and he is going to get peace there. That is his main goal. And this article talks about, Vince, how they compare Trump to Cyrus of the Old Testament, and how Cyrus was instrumental by God for the Jews to reestablish Jerusalem and rebuild the temple and build the second temple, which started the Second Temple era. So they're comparing Trump to that King Cyrus.
And of course, there's a war coming that's going to kill a third of mankind on top of that.
Yeah.
And that has been happening. But or rather, I'm sorry, I'll clarify, that has not been happening, but there's been battle that's happening that's pointing towards that.
Yeah,
and of course,
even new things like you shared with me today, with Iran threatening to attack Mar-a-Lago with drones.
Right. Well, Doug, on top of all that, you remember 3 months ago we had a team-wide meeting here. Yeah.
I do, yes.
And what did we do in that meeting, Doug?
We strategically planned what we would do if the peace agreement were to happen by October of this year. That was the main focus of that. What if we had a peace agreement by October?
And we picked October because we have a friend who is connected to the government of the United States, and picked that strategically to say something's coming, and let's just pretend like it's October. So there's a lot of moving parts, as we say around here. We'll get on to a really big moving part on the other side of the break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Many people argue America is not mentioned in the prophecies of the Bible. But they will miss so much about the coming events that will happen in the end time if they don't get that understanding. What do these beasts symbolize? That's what we need to answer. Because if we can't understand what these beasts symbolize, there's no point in even studying this, right? If you don't believe that America is mentioned in the Bible, you're going to be stuck when it comes to figuring out all these prophecies. But once you understand this, America has a prophesied future. It's given to us in the Bible. And the America will not be part of the world government, but we're going to be protecting Israel against the world government all the way to the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Now streaming on OnlySource and available to order at endtime.com/America. Go to endtime.com/America or call 1-800-ENDTIME.
Welcome back to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. I want to remind you that when you share the video 45 minutes in, it goes a long way breaking through the algorithm, getting to your friends and family. So be sure to share this video right now. Share it in groups that you're in. Send the link via email, text. Any way that you share it, it helps out a lot. So we'd appreciate it if you do it right now. Also, don't forget to give us a thumbs up or a heart. And then perhaps most of all, almost, I don't know if it's better than sharing, but it's right up there with it. When you comment, and you don't just comment 1 or 2 words, but you comment something meaningful, it goes a long way. And YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, all those different sites, they go, wow, there's something here. We need to help other people see this. So when you do that, it really does help. So be sure to share, be sure to give us a heart or a thumbs up, and be sure to be commenting meaningful comments. It'll help us out a lot. We appreciate it very much. And then again, we dissect these final 7 years, the red heifer topic, World War III, understanding the end times, so much on OnlySource. And you can start OnlySource right now. Use code June. You'll get a month free. After that, it's only 44 cents a day. You can literally stream thousands of hours, and you still won't cover everything that's available there. So OnlySource is an incredible resource as we're talking about what's happening around the world, gearing up for these final 7 years, gearing up for the return of Jesus. OnlySource is a great place to be, to educate yourself, educate your friends and family, and be sure you know what's going on. And then it'll help you have hope and peace as well. You're not going to be fearful of these end times. You're going to be fired up to participate in this revival that's happening, and you'll know what's coming next. So you need to be on OnlySource if you haven't already. So go to watch.osn.tv right now. Use code June. Get your first month free. Doug, where do we go from here? We've talked about the red heifer ritual rehearsal, and I've got to add in, or so they say. And I'll share a little bit of my thoughts, Doug, on that real quick.
Let's hear that.
I think it probably was a rehearsal, but I'm not going to be surprised if they come out later and say, actually, it wasn't. We were lying. I mean, I would not be shocked by that.
Yeah.
I think about what, one thing that resonated with me a good bit was when I heard Joe Rogan talking about the moon landing. And I know I can't believe I'm going here, but he said that he used to be against it, I think is how he said it.
Yeah.
I used to think we didn't go to the moon. And then I came to the point where we didn't have enough evidence for me to have such a strong stance on it. He said, so now I don't think the evidence is enough to say we've been on the moon or we haven't been on the moon. Now, I'm not talking about the moon landing. What I am talking about is the red heifer ceremony.
Yeah.
And I can relate with Joe Rogan's explanation on that and say, I don't know which way it was, but I won't be surprised either way is pretty much where I'm at.
Well, I can agree with that statement completely because, I mean, nothing surprises me anymore in this world we live in. Things are happening so fast. And so, yeah, I tend to agree with that statement for sure. It's odd that they didn't put more out about the ceremony in that in that article. It was just an article that said, this happened, boom, here's a picture or video. So, yeah, interesting.
Well, and not only that, I do tend to read what they say and just think they haven't told us everything.
Right.
Or that maybe what they're telling us isn't the full truth.
Yeah.
And so I lean that way anyway.
Yeah.
And so when I see this as a rehearsal, I think, wasn't a rehearsal, is what I automatically go to, even though it probably was. I get it. So we highlighted that to open the show. Do you have more to say on that? Sorry.
I was just going to say we've been through so much to this point in this world that nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah. So we've got the red heifer rehearsal that we open with. Then we start talking about this peace deal that, man, it's lining up a lot with what we've been talking about, the biblical peace deal that starts the final 7 years is going to be. And then now, where do we go from here, Doug?
So one thing that I'll touch on there before we actually hit this article is we have a friend in Israel who is over a battalion called the Jerusalem Battalion. His name is Joel Golden. He has the Golden Report. It's also on OnlySource. So if you've got OnlySource, you can watch the Golden Report. And they update that a lot. And he even gives us footage from, battlefield areas and things like that. But one of the things he told us when we did the behind the scenes, remember the video he sent to us that morning? We asked him if he wanted to throw a clip in for us. He said, keep your eyes on Judea, Samaria. I almost said West Bank, and I'm like, I don't want to call it that. But he said, keep your eye on Judea, Samaria. So he told us that weeks ago. That, how many weeks ago was that? Last month that we did the behind the scenes. And so then this story comes out last week. And Dave did touch on it, but I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive here because there's some things that said, really, I just kind of highlighted this article, but the article comes from the Jerusalem Post. And actually the Post talked to more than just this gentleman. So I want to say this the way that it was told to me when I do the pronounce the word thing that we do. Today the word that we're looking for is. So this guy is called a sheikh. Okay, I would have said sheik because that's what I thought it was. But it's sheikh, a Hebron sheikh. So the Post meets with Hebron sheikh who wants to leave Palestinian Authority. This comes from Jerusalem Post, and it actually was first printed out in the Wall Street Journal. But it said early Sunday morning, this past Sunday morning is when this happened. Half a dozen major Palestinian sheikhs from Hebron area, all led by Sheikh Wadi al-Jabari, also known as Abu Sanad, are ready to break off from the Palestinian Authority and sign a new Abraham Accord-style deal with Israel as the Emirates of Hebron. Now, this is the West Bank. This is Judea, Samaria. This is where this area is. And the Jerusalem Post says that they now can publish this themselves because they personally met with Jabari in his ceremonial tent in that area. So he went to the press and told them, we want to break off from the Palestinian Authority. We want to do Abraham Accord-style peace agreement with Israel, recognizing Israel. Then he said this in the article. He said that he had control of over 78% of Hebron's greater metro population, which could translate into, get this, Vince, over 700,000 Palestinians. You know how we've told everybody before, we go to Israel, we meet Palestinian people, and not all the Palestinian people are against the Jewish people. Not all of them feel the same way that Hamas and the Palestinian Authority feels toward Israel. There are people that want to live side by side in peace. And I've had Palestinian people be very friendly and neighborly to me. I mean, we had a lady on our tour one time that got sick in front of one of the Palestinian stores there, and the man comes out, and I thought he was going to ask us to move from in front of his store because we were causing quite a scene. He came out with a bottle of water and an umbrella to get her out of the heat and to give her water, and he said, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" That changed my perspective right there on the streets of Israel to see that they're a caring people too, and it's just everybody has people that are warmongers in them. It doesn't matter. There's warmongers here in the United States. What I'm saying is this sheikh, he is one of those people that want peace with Israel. And the Post met with 4 other of these sheikh leaders separately who also said, we want to recognize a Jewish state and end the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We want this to be over with. We want to live in peace with Israel. Okay, this is a big deal for this guy to say this. He's had problems. His clan has had problems with the Palestinian Authority in the past, where they've even had battles within the Palestinian Authority between him and his people, where they fought in a military style battle over situations that they didn't agree with. And so now they're saying, look, we want to lay down our arms. We want to have peace with Israel. So last week and the week before was a huge week. I mean, really, this last month's been a huge month for the Middle East. I mean, things are changing so rapidly there, Vince. And this is those things that we're looking at from a prophetic standpoint. And we're seeing things that we've talked about for a long time begin to fall in place. And Joel told us, look to that area for a big announcement to come out of that area. I think maybe Joel knew about this beforehand. And so it's interesting. I cannot wait till we can sit down with Joel and have a private conversation with him off the air where we can really dig in and talk to him more about some of the things that he could share with us off the air, because we don't want to put anybody in danger, and so it's why we don't talk about certain things on the air. But, man, I can't wait to have a one-on-one with Joel one day.
Well, and people say, like, the reason we don't is because we're scared to talk about whatever, but that's not really what it is. Of course, we know that, but we're probably not going to convince those folks of that
Right.
anyway. But so do you think that this could, like, is it technically possible that this could be the peace agreement we've been looking for?
Vince, it certainly looks like it. All the pieces seem to fall in place. And one of the things, when I know that you're in the same news that I'm in, and you send me articles all the time, but have you noticed the theme that we're seeing? Peace and safety is being repeated over and over and over. And what did Paul tell us in the book of Thessalonians? He said, when they say peace and safety, destruction will come upon them suddenly as birth pains on a pregnant woman. And so we're seeing things line up, and they're even using words that are in prophecy and in Scripture telling us, look at these things. It's almost as if God is blowing a trumpet and saying, hey, you guys, pay attention to this. Paul tells us, he said, of the times and seasons, I don't need to speak to you about, because the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night. But you, brethren, are not of the night, so that day won't take you like a thief. You've got all these things to look at. And then he tells us an interesting thing in that same scripture, Vince. He says, so put on the breastplate of faith and hope, and put on the helmet of your salvation. He talks about the armor of God and tells us to make sure we're clothed with that armor, because these days are coming where we're going to need to be spiritually armed, not to be deceived by things that are happening in the world. And remember what Jesus said in Matthew 24, that if it were possible, even the very elect could be fooled by some of the things that will come out of the false prophet's mouth and out of the mouth of the Antichrist. And so we've got to be spiritually armed. And so when we see these things happening in the world, I feel like that's God saying, hey, pay attention, because you're not of the night, you're of the day.
Doug, we're at the end of the show. It's unbelievable.
I know.
As you started talking, I thought, we really need to talk about spiritual warfare, but we don't have time to talk about spiritual warfare. There's been things going on around here, Doug, that's not normal.
Yeah.
I don't mean curtains moving or, rocking chairs moving on their own. I'm not talking about that type of thing.
Right.
I'm talking about spiritual warfare, Doug, and I think we're going to have to talk about it on the air at some point and share what's been going on to some degree, and we need people praying with us. I can't imagine I know what we're going through, and I can't imagine what some of the end-timers out there are going through as we approach the days that are ahead, as the kingdom of God is advancing, as the enemy is fighting against that. We need to be praying like never before, and maybe we can get into it a little bit tomorrow on Open Line. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
We'll
see.
I think we could. I think that would be a good subject to start off the show with.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let us know if you want us to start off with that. Put spiritual warfare in the comments or something like that. Make it obvious. But we'll be right back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. for Open Line. In the meantime, don't forget, go to watch.osn.tv, subscribe using code JUNE, and of course you can go there and access thousands of hours of content without being a subscriber, and also endtime.com. This show's made available for free because of partners just like you that give every single month, and we're grateful for you so much. If you'd like to partner with us, go to endtime.com/give. We'd appreciate it so much. God bless you. Have a great evening.